What's up, everybody? It's Alex from Heavy New York. We are backstage at the PlayStation Theater, and today we are here with another Gothenburg metal veteran. We are here with Björn of In Flames. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's so great to have you here. Your new album, I the Mask, which is officially 24 hours old. It sounds absolutely awesome. Let's just give a rundown on how the making of the record has been.
We went back to LA and worked with Howard Benson again. Fantastic experience the first time on Battles already. And we kind of knew what we were getting into this time. We weren't really ready the first time, I think, so we came really prepared. This time we knew we don't need to do that much. You know, the whole setup he has with his team, Mike Plotnikov, Hatch, and all those guys, super efficient. We knew that we could just spend most of the time, the bulk of the time, really writing. So we were at a really good place. And then this time around, we got lucky enough to work with the mighty Chris Lord-Alge for the mixing, and him and Howard has done so many productions together. It's almost ridiculous, and they know each other inside out. And we're really happy and fortunate to have that combo worked.
Yeah, the sound of hits. That's what he calls it.
Yeah, it sounds really good, and I'm excited.
Yeah. Now, is this record conceptually intended to be like a direct follow-up to Battles, or do you think that this album kind of stands out in its own entity?
No, it's not I mean, we haven't really done a conceptual album, like concept album, for quite some time. But in the end, there's like an overall theme about it, but it differs from Battles. This is more about the masks that we wear in different situations, like in order to protect ourselves at times, or to just show the parts of you that you want seen. You know, like take social media, for instance. It's a perfect example. I mean, you just show the perfect beaches, the ice-cold drinks, and your life's hunky-dory, but probably on the inside you're miserable, you know? And that's just one example. There's a bunch of situations where you can see that people are not opening up, you know? And I think by doing that, you kind of miss out on some of the great stuff happening, you know, because you're not receptive, you know?
Yeah. Disturbed wrote a song on their latest album called In Another Time, which kind of like demonstrates a similar thing. Did this idea that you guys have determine the outcome of the sound of the music?
It was actually, I mean, we did lyrics, vocals, and the music at the same time this time around, which is something that Howard taught us, basically, or kind of forced us to do, because we opened up, and the songwriting was very different on Battles already than it has been in the past. It was actually a really tight collaboration, and the same thing here. I mean, I think the lyrical concept came together with the music. So in a way, I think they both inspired each other. So perhaps, yeah.
Now, as somebody who's listened to In Flames for so many years, you know, I could tell what song is off of Clayman, what's off Reroute to Remain, what's off A Sense of Purpose, etc. So is it fair to say that In Flames likes to experiment and take a new approach to every album?
It's important for us. It's not a new approach, but we're kind of still honing our sound, distilling what we want to do, and learning from what we've done in the past. I mean, the end goal is for us to make a record that we love, you know, us five, you know, at least. And then when we're done with it and super proud of it and happy, then it's up to the world to decide. It's really out of our hands either way. And if we would have tried to approach it in any other way, we'll be second on the ball, or just lost in a flood of something else. You know, we'd rather do what we want to hear. Yeah.
Now, I've noticed that In Flames is very melodic based, but also very rhythmic based. Does one come first? Is it melody over rhythm, or rhythm over melody?
It's really hard. I mean, sometimes it's just a melody that bounces around in your head and you try to nail it down, put it on tape. Sometimes it's just like you have this drum beat, or you have this rhythm part guitar, or it can be this really cool line that Anders wrote that can inspire a whole song. So nowadays it's more difficult to say exactly where it comes from, but the core has always been melody and some sort of aggression to mix in that. I like the contrast between the two. It creates a really good energy. And yeah, so that's the main goals that we have.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because like if you go look at Clayman, you have like Pinball Map, and then you have like Satellites and Astronauts that are very different vibes. Then on A Sense of Purpose, like Alias, which is very different from Sleepless Again or something like that. Is it, depending on, like, for lack of better terms, the level of heaviness on your songs, is it a different experience playing that?
Well, it will be obviously a different, because it's way more dynamics in one of the slower songs than it is in. for example, talk about I the Mask and the title track versus Stay With Me. It's a totally different songs, but they both fit under, the I the Mask album umbrella, and that's something that I'm super proud of, that we managed to do that, coherent and, you know, and it works. But I think we're old school. I mean, we write an album. We don't write singles or radio hits. We don't know how to do that. We know how to make an album, an album that we want to hear, and try to do a good, make it a nice and comfortable journey for the listener, and that would be us. So, yeah.
Going back to the concept of I the Mask, like you just mentioned, can this album still be open to interpretation, though, if a listener were to kind of see something different?
Yeah. It's the way Anders writes his lyrics has never been to exactly tell people this and this and that is what happened, or this and this is what I think. It's more of look at it as a drawing or a picture or something, where you can put your own experiences into it and make it your own. I think the songs will grow stronger on you if you have a connection to the song other than just being told what's going on. And I always liked that way of writing lyrics. So absolutely, there's lots of room for interpretation. He likes to write in metaphors, which is awesome just for that cost. So there's a little bit for everybody in here, I think.
Yeah. And I have 2 more questions. One is that In Flames has toured with a variety of different bands. You just got off tour with All That Remains. Now you're touring with Within Temptation. And, I first saw you with Hell Yeah, and then you toured with, fellow Gothenburg bands like Dark Tranquillity. Like, have you noticed, depending on, like, the tours you're on, like, the different type of audience?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, which is cool. I mean, you get to tour with Slayer, then you have their audience, and, you work your butt off to convince them that we're a good band. And the same thing with every other band that we go with. Is you go up there and you make sure you present your music in the best possible way, make sure you have fun doing it, and hopefully that will rub off. I mean, it's the one opportunity, it's the one time of day that's actually awesome, being on stage. So
Yeah, it's funny because, like, I feel like you guys have the best of both worlds where you could play to different audiences. Is like a different reaction maybe too?
Yeah, well, which is fine. And we've played all stages, I mean, or a lot of them. So anything from the smallest to some of the biggest festival stages we have, and some of the biggest arenas as well. We've been very fortunate and lucky doing that, which means that we're comfortable everywhere in front of any audience. Then it's a matter of the energies, being given back or what we can send out. So, but again, I think that the highlight of the day is being on stage. So we try to do the most of it. Always try to do the best of it.
Yeah, I remember when I saw you, From Ashes to New was on that Hell Yeah, which is a rap metal audience, and I remember some of them stayed to check you guys out, and some of them looked pretty scared. I guess.
Yeah, well, it happens. I mean, it's obviously not for everybody. And again, I have to repeat it. This is for us. Yeah. And we're just very happy if you want to join us in it. But if you don't, there's so much out there, Exactly. But at least give it a shot, like these guys did.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the final question I want to ask you is, and my viewers are probably sick of me asking this, but I interviewed At the Gates, I interviewed Dark Tranquillity, I interviewed The Haunted, all from a very similar scene. And, you're one of the first bands that people think of coming from that Gothenburg scene. Was it kind of easy for In Flames to get their name out there coming from that scene, or was it easier to start a band in Sweden because it's such a metal capital?
No, I don't think anybody had it easy. I mean, you could see those bands, Dark Tranquillity and At the Gates especially, they were touring early. They went over here before us. We just saw that it was possible, and I think the one thing that like the Gothenburg scene did was that they got in front of people. We played shows, and not only making demos or records and be gone for the rest. I mean, we all like touring, and it's a bit of work, but it's absolutely worth it. So I think that's what, put Gothenburg on the map. And also it's kind of a small city compared to a lot of cities in the world. And everything sort of revolved around that studio where everybody recorded in the studio for Edman. And that's why I think it got sort of bunched together, even though there's a whole variety of bands, but they're all considered Gothenburg sound. So, yeah.
Because Soil Work sounds very different from Dark Tranquillity,
Yeah.
which sounds different from you guys, which sounds different from At the Gates. I never understood the term like Swedish death metal.
But
Like,
it's actually journalists having to label it something, and I think because we all record in the same studio, it was easier than describing each and every band individually.
I
Yeah.
think Steven Wilson recorded out of that studio too. I think.
I think he did some Opeth records there. I think.
Yeah, I heard an interview with Peter Witchers that he said that happened. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you, man.
Yeah, just Eye the Mask. It's a brand new record cycle. You're doing this run with Within Temptation. Is there just anything else, of course, if you're allowed to talk about it, that we could be expecting from In Flames or anything you'd like to promote?
Well, yeah, we do have a lot of touring coming up. I'm not sure when we're going to get back here to the U.S., but we have a bunch of European dates. We have some festivals in the summer. We have our own festival, the Borgholm-Brinner Festival. That's in early August, 2nd and 3rd. That's in a really cool place. You should check that out. Besides that, we'll be back. We love touring, so.
Yeah, and we love it when you guys come here.
All right, thank
Well, Bjorn, thank you so much. Everybody,
pleasure.
Bjorn of In Flames, Eye the Mask. Pick it up if you haven't already. This is Alex from Heavy New York. We'll see you next time.